This story is 100% fiction. All elements are imaginary. Coincidences with reality are accidental. But 18. Entertainment only. The wrought iron gate opened with a creak that echoed like a warning. Hope Carter clutched her purse tightly as the Uber pulled away, leaving her alone before the Yilmaz estate, a colossus of stone and mystery that seemed to swallow the Seattle sunlight. 4 months since graduation, 17 rejected interviews, bank account in the red, and now she stood here, responding to a vague ad for private nurse for special client, exceptional salary, discretion mandatory. Discretion mandatory should have been her first red flag. A middle-aged woman dressed entirely in black opened the main door before Hope could ring the bell. "You're late." The voice had a slight accent and zero patience. "I arrived 5 minutes before the scheduled time." Hope checked her phone. "For Mr. Yilmaz, 5 minutes early is late. Come in." The mansion's interior was a disturbing mix of European elegance and modern fortress. Cameras in every corner, men in black suits strategically positioned, and a silence so dense that Hope could hear her own racing heartbeat. The woman guided her through endless corridors to a library that smelled of old leather and something else. Gunpowder? Hope pushed the thought away. "Sit. Mr. Mohammed will be here shortly." 15 minutes passed. Hope studied the books on the shelves. American classics, military strategy treatises, and curiously, several editions in Braille. Then she noticed the curtains were closed even at noon. The lighting was minimal, and there were marks on the walls, as if someone memorized every inch of space through touch. The door opened without warning. A man entered, impeccably styled gray hair, 3-piece suit that probably cost more than Hope's used car. His eyes assessed her with the precision of a medical scanner. "Miss Carter, Mohammed Demir, administrator of this household." He didn't offer his hand. "Pleasure, Mr. Demir. I brought my resume and we've already investigated you." He sat behind the massive desk, opening a folder that definitely wasn't a standard resume. Graduated from University of Washington with honors. Specializations in trauma and intensive care. No close relatives, no boyfriend, no apparent addictions. 22 years old, orphaned since 16. Worked 3 jobs simultaneously during college. Hope's blood ran cold. "That's invasive. That's necessary." Mohammed closed the folder with a sharp snap. "The man you'll be caring for is not an ordinary patient. He requires absolute loyalty, total discretion, and has specific needs." "What kind of needs?" Ken Yilmaz, 30 years old, blind since age 6 due to an accident that also took his parents' lives. Mohammed paused, weighing each word. "He refuses any surgical procedure that could restore his vision. He's lived in darkness by choice for 24 years. Hope frowned. As a nurse, that was professionally disturbing. "And he needs constant medical care because his work is stressful." Mohammed stood, walking to the covered window. "He suffers from severe migraines, has chronic insomnia episodes, and occasionally returns home with injuries that need immediate and discreet treatment." Injuries that need discreet treatment. The second warning bell rang like a siren in Hope's head. "Mr. Demir, with all due respect, what kind of work does your employer do that results in frequent injuries?" Mohammed's eyes met hers. There was something there, a mixture of admiration for the courage of the question and pity for what she was about to discover. Ken Yilmaz is the head of the Yilmaz family. He inherited his father's empire at 6, took full control at 18. He manages business that isn't always resolved in conventional boardrooms. The third warning bell was now a deafening alarm. "You're telling me he's a very powerful businessman," Mohammed cut in, "with very dangerous enemies." Hope should have stood up, should have run, but 17 rejections, threatening evictions, and an empty bank account were a very heavy chain. "What's the salary?" Mohammed smiled. Not a happy smile, but the smile of someone who recognized desperation when he saw it. $15,000 per month, complete housing in the mansion, food included, and a $100,000 bonus if you stay for a full year. Hope swallowed hard. That was life-changing. Debts paid, future secured, freedom, or a golden cage. "I need to live here?" "Ken needs care available 24 hours, and you need to be protected." Mohammed returned to the desk. "Your predecessors didn't understand the delicate nature of this position." "Predecessors? How many?" 7, in the last 2 years. He opened a drawer, removing a thick contract. "Most lasted less than a month. Ken is demanding, and his temperament is difficult when you're accustomed to compensating for lack of vision with absolute control over everything else." Hope flipped through the contract. Confidentiality clauses that would make a Hollywood lawyer cry, penalties for violation that included devastating lawsuits, and an entire section on security protocols in threat situations. What happens if I want to leave before the year? You can leave at any time, without the bonus naturally, but with a recommendation that will open doors at any hospital in the country. Mohammed leaned forward. Can maybe many things, Miss Carter, but he values competence. If you prove your worth, he'll take care of your future. And if I don't prove it, then you'll join the other 7. Mohammed pushed an expensive pen toward her. But something tells me you're different. There's a firmness in you, a refusal to break. Ken respects that, when he chooses to respect. Hope held the pen. She thought about her miserable studio apartment, the unpaid medical bills from the illness that killed her parents, the future that seemed increasingly impossible. She signed. Mohammed took the contract with a nod. Welcome to the Yilmaz family, Miss Carter. Now, there's something you must understand before meeting Khan. He doesn't tolerate pity, doesn't tolerate hesitation, and above all, doesn't tolerate lies. He walked to the door, stopping with his hand on the handle. Oh, and one last thing. Never, never touch him without warning first. The reflexes of a man who lives in darkness are dangerous. The door opened, revealing another corridor, this one even darker. He's expecting you now. East wing, 3rd floor, last door. Mohammed gestured. Try not to disappoint him in the first hour. That would be a new negative record. Hope walked down the corridor, each step echoing like a sentence. She climbed the marble stairs, past more suited men who watched her with morbid curiosity, and finally reached the last door. It was different from the others. Black wood, no visible handle, with a digital lock that glowed softly. She raised her hand to knock. Come in. The voice came from inside, deep and controlled, with a Turkish accent that transformed each word into a command. Hope pushed the door. The room was dark. Not dark like curtains closed. Dark like total absence of light. She blinked, waiting for her eyes to adjust, but there was nothing to adjust to. Close the door. You're letting in light. She obeyed. Darkness swallowed her completely. Mr. Yilmaz, I'm Hope Carter. You're new. I know who you are. Footsteps approached, too precise for someone who couldn't see. Mohammed is predictable. He always chooses the desperate ones. Easier to control. Anger cut through Hope's fear. I'm not easy to control. The silence that followed was dense. Then a low laugh, almost surprised. No? You signed a contract without even meeting your employer, accepted living in a house that's clearly not conventional, and entered a dark room with a stranger. The footsteps stopped. He was close, very close. That seems quite controllable to me. Hope clenched her fists. Her pride, apparently, was stronger than her survival instinct. I signed because I'm a qualified nurse who needs to pay bills. I accepted living here because the salary is fair. And I entered this room because it's my job. She took a step forward even without seeing anything. But don't confuse necessity with weakness, Mr. Yilmaz. I don't break easily. Another silence. Longer. Heavier. Then, a click. Dim lights turned on. Just enough to reveal contours. And Hope finally saw her employer. Ken Yilmaz was devastatingly handsome in a dangerous way. Perfectly tousled black hair, angular jaw, lips that seemed carved from marble. He wore dark sunglasses even in the dimness, a gray suit that hugged a clearly trained body, and a complex tattoo that climbed up his neck. Symbols Hope didn't recognize but that screamed power and violence. He tilted his head, as if he could see her through the glasses. You're afraid. I am. Hope didn't lie. But I also have debts. So here I am. A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Honesty. How refreshing. Ken walked to a leather armchair, sitting with the grace of a predator. Here are your duties. You'll ensure I take my migraine medications at the correct times. You'll treat any injuries I return with. No questions asked. You'll wake me if I have nightmares, and I do frequently, and you'll remain available every night in case I need assistance. The way he said assistance made Hope's stomach turn. Medical assistance, she clarified. Naturally. Ken crossed his legs. What else could I mean? Hope wasn't sure if it was sarcasm or a test. I read in the contract about security protocols. What kind of threats should I be prepared to face? People who want to kill me, Ken said casually, as if discussing the weather. Rival families who see my blindness as weakness. Internal traitors who think they can take what's mine. He removed his glasses. and Hope gasped. His eyes were light brown, absolutely perfect, and completely unfocused. They looked through her, around her, but never at her. Disturbing, isn't it? Can put the glasses back on. Eyes that function perfectly but receive only darkness. Physical irony. Why don't you have the surgery? Hope asked before she could stop herself. Sorry, I shouldn't. You should. Since you'll be living under my roof, you might as well understand who you're dealing with. Can stood, walking to a window he clearly couldn't see. I was 6 when the car exploded. My parents died instantly. I survived, but the optic nerves were damaged by the blast. Doctors said there was a 50% chance surgery could restore my vision. 50% is 50% chance of seeing the world that took my parents from me. Can cut in, his voice like ice. 50% chance of witnessing the violence I perpetrate every day, of seeing the faces of people I order dead, of watching the fear in the eyes of those who betray me. He turned his head toward her as if he could sense her horror. I prefer the darkness, Miss Carter. It's honest. Doesn't pretend to be something it's not. Hope had no answer for that. You're free for the rest of the day. Can dismissed her. Mohammed will show you your quarters. Tomorrow at 6 a.m. you'll begin. And Miss Carter? He waited. Yes? If you try to treat me like an invalid, like someone who needs pity, I'll fire you immediately. His fingers drummed on the armchair. I'm blind. I'm not broken. There's a crucial difference. Hope nodded, realizing too late he couldn't see the gesture. I understand. We'll see. She left the room, breathing for the first time in minutes. Mohammed waited in the corridor. Congratulations. You survived the first meeting. He started walking. Most leave crying. I don't cry easily. Good, because in the coming months, Miss Carter, you'll need that strength. Mohammed stopped before a door on the 2nd floor. Your quarters. Everything you need is here. Your clothes will be brought from your old residence tomorrow. Hope opened the door. The room was larger than her entire studio apartment, with a king-size bed, marble private bathroom, and a view of Seattle that should be illegal for being so beautiful. One last thing, Mohammed said from the doorway. Can may seem cold, even cruel, but he carries a weight that would break lesser men. His father built this empire with blood. Can maintains it with absolute control because a single demonstration of weakness would be his end. His eyes softened marginally. He needs someone who sees beyond the darkness, someone who's not afraid to challenge him. I think you might be that person. Before Hope could respond, he was gone. She walked to the window, watching the city stretch below. Somewhere out there, people lived normal lives, worried about bills, relationships, careers. Hope had just entered a world where survival was the most valuable currency, and the man who controlled that world lived voluntarily in the shadows. Her phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Welcome to the family. Don't disappoint my grandson. The consequences would be regrettable. Yilmaz family. Hope threw the phone on the bed. What the hell had she just done? The Yilmaz family dining room looked like something from a crime movie. Long mahogany table, crystal chandeliers, and enough testosterone to choke on. Hope counted 12 men in expensive suits, 2 elegantly dressed women who looked like they could kill with their jewelry. And at the head of it all, an elderly man whose eyes could freeze hell itself. Can's grandfather. Sit beside me, Can murmured, pulling out the chair to his right. Hope sat, acutely aware of every gaze dissecting her. So this is the new nurse. The grandfather spoke, his English heavy with Turkish accent. Pretty little thing. How long before she runs like the others, Can? She won't run, Dee. Can's voice was steel wrapped in silk. They all run eventually. A younger man, mid-30s, expensive watch, cruel smile, leaned forward. I give her 2 weeks. What's your bet, Karam? The man across from him, Can's uncle apparently, shrugged. She has spirit. I saw how she looked at our guards. Maybe a month. Gentlemen? Can's hand moved to the table, fingers drumming once. Perhaps we should ask Miss Carter herself. All eyes turned to Hope. She met the grandfather's stare. I don't run from difficult situations, Mr. Yilmaz. I walk toward them. It's what nurses do. A flash of something, approval, crossed the old man's face. Brave words. Let's see if you can. The dining room door burst open. A man stumbled in, bleeding from his shoulder, 2 guards dragging him. Hope's medical instincts kicked in immediately, gunshot wound, fresh arterial bleeding. She started to rise. Can's hand caught her wrist. Sit. He's bleeding out. He's a traitor. Can's voice was ice. Let him bleed. Hope watched in horror as they threw the man to the floor. He gasped, pleading in a language she didn't understand. The grandfather stood, walking slowly to the bleeding man. He spoke in Turkish, words harsh and final. Then he nodded to one of the guards. A single gunshot. Hope flinched but didn't look away. The family watched her, waiting for her to scream, to run, to break. She gripped her napkin under the table and kept her face neutral. Interesting. The grandfather returned to his seat. She didn't run, didn't even cry. Perhaps Can has finally found someone with a spine. Can's grip on her wrist loosened slightly. I told you. She's different. The body was dragged out. Staff appeared to clean the floor as if nothing happened. Dinner was served. Hope couldn't eat, but she stayed. After what felt like hours, Can stood. Excuse us. I need to speak with Miss Carter privately. They left through a side door. Can led her to a balcony overlooking the Seattle lights. His steps sure despite the darkness. You did well, he said quietly. A man just died in front of me. A man who sold information that got 3 of my people killed last week. Can turned toward her. I know you have a conscience, Hope. But in my world, mercy is often cruelty to the innocent. Hope's hands shook. I understand the logic. Doesn't mean I have to like it. I'm not asking you to like it, I'm asking you to survive it. Can moved closer. Which brings me to why I brought you out here. Hope's heart rate spiked. Mr. Yilmaz. Can just can. He removed his sunglasses, those unfocused eyes somehow finding her in the darkness. I have a proposition for you. If this is about the nursing position, it's about marriage. Hope's world tilted. What? I need a wife. You need security. Can stated it like a business transaction. My grandfather is dying. He won't admit it, but I can hear the weakness in his breathing, the tremor in his hands. He has 6 months, maybe less. I'm sorry, but what does that have to do with? He won't die peacefully until I'm settled. Married, with the promise of heirs to continue the Yilmaz name. Can's jaw tightened. Every week he parades eligible daughters of allied families through this house. Women who see me as a trophy or a bank account. None of them look at me like I'm human. Can, you do. You argue with me, challenge me. You don't treat me like I'm broken. He took a breath. Marry me. Contract marriage. 2 years. You'll have everything you need, money, protection, freedom to live your life. In return, you play the role of my wife in public. Keep my grandfather happy in his final months. Hope's mind raced. This is insane. This is survival. Mine and yours. Can stepped closer. You heard them tonight. My family doesn't trust outsiders. But a wife? A wife is family. Untouchable. Protected. You want to marry me to protect me? I want to marry you because you're the only person in years who's treated me like a man instead of a monster or a martyr. His voice dropped. And because when you're near me, I breathe easier. The nightmares are quieter. I don't know why, but you settle something in me. Hope's breath caught. Can, I barely know you. You know enough. You know I'm blind, dangerous, and jiving in a world that could kill you. He held out his hand. But you stayed through dinner. You didn't run when you saw what I am. That's more than anyone else has ever done. This is crazy. Probably. But it's also a solution. Can's hand remained steady. 2 years. After that, quiet divorce, generous settlement, and you walk away with enough money to never worry again. Or we see where this goes. No pressure, no expectations, just possibility. Hope looked at his outstretched hand. At this man who lived in darkness by choice, who carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders, who somehow saw her clearer than anyone ever had. What would this marriage actually involve? Public appearances, family dinners. You'd wear my ring, live in this house, let my grandfather believe we're building a life together. Ken paused. Your bedroom stays yours. I won't touch you unless you want me to. This is a partnership, not a prison. And if I say no, then you remain my nurse. Nothing changes, except Can lowered his hand. Except you'll always be an outsider, always vulnerable, and I'll spend the rest of my grandfather's life fighting off arranged marriages to women who make my skin crawl. Hope closed her eyes, opened them, made a decision that would change everything. I have conditions. Can's lips curved. Name them. I keep my career. When this is over, you help me get into any hospital I choose. Full recommendation. No questions. Done. I want access to the medical wing I saw on the 3rd floor. For staff injuries, no more bleeding out in hallways. Agreed. And you start seeing a therapist for the nightmares and PTSD. Non-negotiable. Can stiffened. Hope. Non-negotiable, Can. You want me as your wife? That's my price. You take care of yourself. A long silence. Then, incredibly, Can laughed. You drive a hard bargain, Miss Carter. I learned from the best. Hope took his hand. 2 years. Partners. And you actually let me help you. Can's fingers intertwined with hers. 2 years. Starting now. He pulled a box from his jacket velvet. Expensive. Inside, a ring that probably cost more than Hope's entire education. Platinum band with a single perfect diamond. How did you? Hope stared. You had this ready? I've been planning this since you challenged me in the darkroom 3 days ago. Can took the ring out. May I? Hope extended her hand. Can slid the ring on her finger with perfect precision, his touch gentle despite the calluses. There. Now you're mine. And I'm yours. He raised her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. Welcome to the family, Mrs. Yilmaz. Hope's heart hammered. We're really doing this. We're really doing this. Can pulled her closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. And Hope? Thank you. For seeing me. For staying. For being brave enough to tie yourself to a monster. You're not a monster, Can. Then you're the only one who thinks so. He released her hand. Come. We should tell my grandfather before he dies of curiosity. They walked back inside together. Hope wore a stranger's ring and carried the weight of an impossible promise. But for the first time in years, she felt like she belonged somewhere. Even if that somewhere was beside a blind Don who lived in beautiful darkness. The grandfather's reaction was not what Hope expected. He stared at the ring on her finger for a full minute, then burst into laughter so loud it echoed through the mansion. Finally, the boy shows some sense. He grabbed Hope's hand, examining the diamond. A nurse. Practical. Strong. Not one of those silk flowers who faint at the sight of blood. He turned to Can. You chose well, Tarunam. She chose me, Didi. Can corrected quietly. Even better. The old man's eyes gleamed. We have a wedding to plan. This weekend. No delays. Hope's stomach dropped. This weekend, that's 3 days. 3 days is generous. I could arrange it by tomorrow. The grandfather waved his hand dismissively. But Hope will need a dress, and we should do this properly. The Yilmaz family doesn't do small weddings. Can's jaw tightened. Didi, perhaps we should... No arguments. Saturday evening. I'll contact the family. Arrange the venue. Call the imam. He looked at Hope with something almost like affection. You have family to invite, Kazim? The word, daughter, hit Hope unexpectedly hard. No, sir. My parents are gone. No siblings. No extended family. The grandfather's expression softened marginally. Then we are your family now. For better or worse. He clasped Can's shoulder. Protect her, Can. This one is precious. After he left, Can exhaled slowly. I'm sorry. I didn't expect him to move this fast. It's fine. Hope's voice sounded steadier than she felt. We agreed to this. We agreed to a contract, not a circus. Can ran his hand through his hair. My grandfather will invite every family in the Northwest. It'll be 300 people minimum. 300 strangers watching me marry a man I met 4 days ago. Normal Tuesday. Can laughed, despite himself. Your ability to find humor in chaos is disturbing. Survival mechanism. Hope touched the ring, still surreal on her finger. Can, are you sure about this? Once we do this publicly, there's no taking it back quietly. Can turned toward her. Those unfocused eyes somehow locked on hers. I've never been more sure of anything. You're the first person in years who makes me feel like Can instead of the blind Don. The first person who doesn't whisper pity or fear when I walk into a room. People actually call you that. The blind Don. Behind my back. They think I can't hear. His smile was sharp. They underestimate what you can hear when you live in darkness. Hope stepped closer. What do you hear right now? Can tilted his head. Your heartbeat. Elevated but steady. You're nervous but not afraid. He breathed in. You changed your shampoo. Vanilla instead of coconut. His fingers flexed. You're standing 8 inches away. Close enough to touch. Far enough to run if you wanted to. I'm not running. No, you're not. Can reached out slowly, telegraphing his movement. His hand found her cheek with devastating accuracy. Hope Carter, soon to be Hope Yilmaz. What did I do to deserve you walking into my darkness? You were honest. You didn't pretend to be something you're not. Hope leaned into his touch. And you saw me when everyone else looked through me. Can's thumb brushed her cheekbone. I can't see you, Hope, but I know you're beautiful. I hear it in the way men's voices change when you enter a room. Feel it in the confidence of your walk. Sense it in the way you take up space without apology. Can Saturday I marry you in front of everyone who matters in my world? They'll see a business arrangement, a convenience. His hand slid to her neck, pulse point. But this, your heart racing when I touch you. This is real, isn't it? Hope's breath caught. Yes. Good. Because mine does the same thing. He dropped his hand, stepping back. Get some rest. Tomorrow Mohammed will take you shopping for a wedding dress. Pick something that makes you feel powerful. You'll need that armor. Where will you be? Handling the families who'll be displeased by this announcement. Can's voice hardened. Not everyone will celebrate a Yilmaz marrying outside the traditional circles. Will there be trouble? There's always trouble, Hope. But now you're under my protection. Anyone who touches you answers to me. He moved toward the door. Sleep well, Mrs. Yilmaz. After he left, Hope collapsed onto her bed. What had she just agreed to? Friday morning, Hope stood in the most expensive bridal boutique in Seattle, surrounded by silk and lace that cost more than her car. Mohammed watched from a velvet chair, his expression unreadable. Ken said to give you unlimited budget. Choose whatever speaks to you. Hope touched a delicate gown covered in crystals. This is insane. It's not even a real wedding. Isn't it? Mohammed raised an eyebrow. You'll stand before an imam, exchange vows, wear his ring. Seems real to me. It's a contract. So is every marriage, Kuzum. The only difference is whether you admit it. He gestured to the dresses. Ken specifically requested something that makes you feel strong, not like a doll. Hope moved through the gowns, rejecting the ultra-feminine styles. Then she saw it. Sleek white silk, almost architectural in its simplicity. Long sleeves, high neck, but with a back that plunged dramatically. Powerful and elegant without being fragile. That one. The attendant helped her into it. Hope stared at her reflection. She looked like a woman who could stand beside a Don, who could survive in his world. Perfect, Mohammed said quietly. Ken will appreciate the strength of it. He won't see it. He'll feel it, trust me. Mohammed stood. There's one more thing. Ken asked me to give you this. He handed her a velvet box. Inside, a necklace platinum chain with a single pendant. A wolf, emerald eyes gleaming. The Yilmaz family crest, Mohammed explained. Can's grandfather wore this at his own wedding. Can's father wore it. And now, Can wants you to have it. Hope's throat tightened. This is too much. This is family. Learn the difference. Mohammed's voice softened. Can doesn't let people in easily. But when he does, he protects them with everything he has. You're his now. That means something. Saturday evening arrived with terrifying speed. Hope stood in a preparation room at the Yilmaz estate, now transformed into a wedding venue. Through the window she could see hundreds of guests arriving. Expensive cars, designer suits, the elite of Seattle's underground. A knock at the door. Can entered, guided by Mohammed. He wore a tailored black suit, silver tie, and somehow looked both elegant and deadly. Everyone out, Can ordered. I need a moment with my bride. The room cleared. Can walked toward Hope with that uncanny precision. You're nervous, I can hear your breathing. 300 people out there, most of whom probably want me dead for marrying you. Hope tried to laugh. No pressure. Can reached out, finding her hand. Listen to me. The moment you walk down that aisle, you become untouchable. My wife, protected by every oath and code that governs my world. He squeezed her fingers. No one will dare hurt you, not while I breathe. And if something happens to you, then you walk away with enough money and connections to disappear. I've already arranged it. Can pulled her closer. But nothing will happen to me. I'm too stubborn to die, and now I have something worth living for. Can, I mean it. You gave me hope, Hope. He smiled at his own pun. Terrible wordplay, but true. You make the darkness less heavy. Music started playing outside. The wedding march. Can offered his arm. Ready to marry a monster? Hope took his arm, feeling the strength beneath the expensive fabric. Ready to marry a man. They walked together toward the ceremony. The venue was stunning. White roses everywhere, candlelight, and a sea of faces turning to watch them enter. Hope felt their stares, their judgment, their curiosity. But Can walked beside her with absolute confidence, his hand steady on hers. They reached the imam, an elderly man with kind eyes who spoke in Turkish and English. The ceremony blurred. Hope repeated vows she barely understood, promising loyalty, respect, partnership. Can's voice was steady, his Turkish fluid and beautiful as he spoke his vows. Then the imam nodded. You may kiss your bride. Hope's heart stopped. Can turned toward her, his hands finding her face with that gentle accuracy. May I? She nodded, realized he couldn't see it. Yes. Can kissed her softly, briefly, a promise more than a passion. But when his lips touched hers, Hope felt electricity run through her entire body. The crowd erupted in applause. Can pulled back, whispering so only she could hear. You're mine now, Hope Yilmaz, and I'm yours, no matter what comes next. The reception was a whirlwind of faces, names, congratulations that felt more like evaluations. Hope smiled until her face hurt, accepted kisses on her cheeks from strangers, and let Can guide her through conversations in multiple languages. Finally, near midnight, they escaped to the balcony. Can loosened his tie, exhaling. You survived, I'm impressed. Your cousin Elif cornered me for 20 minutes explaining why American women make terrible wives. Hope kicked off her heels. I smiled and told her my nursing training makes me excellent at dealing with difficult patients. Can laughed, genuine and surprised. You said that to Elif? She must have lost her mind. She walked away muttering in Turkish. I'm assuming it wasn't complimentary. Probably not. Can sobered. Hope, I know tonight was overwhelming, and I know our wedding night won't be traditional. Your room is still yours. No expectations. Hope looked at this man, her husband, standing in moonlight he couldn't see. Can I have a question? Ask. Why did you really choose me? The truth. Can was quiet for a long moment. Because when you walked into my darkness, you didn't bring pity or fear. You brought light. Not the kind I can see, but the kind I can feel. He turned toward her. You make me want to live in something other than shadows. Even if I never see again, with you, I feel less blind. Hope's eyes burned. That's the most beautiful thing anyone's ever said to me. Then I'll spend our marriage finding more beautiful things to say. Can held out his hand. Come, let's go home, Mrs. Yilmaz. Hope took his hand, and together, they walked into their impossible future. 3 weeks into marriage, Hope learned that Can Yilmaz was a creature of precise routine. He woke at 5 a.m. exactly, trained in the private gym for 90 minutes, showered in exactly 12 minutes, breakfast at 7, meetings from 8 to noon, lunch alone in his office, more meetings until 6, dinner at 7:30, work until midnight. Every single day. It was the routine of a man who controlled his world through predictability, who compensated for blindness with absolute structure. It was also slowly killing him. Hope noticed the signs. Deeper circles under his eyes despite the sunglasses, tension in his shoulders that never released, headaches that came more frequently, and the nightmares. God, the nightmares. Every night around 3 a.m. she'd hear the screaming from his room. Sometimes she'd go to him. Most times he'd already be awake when she arrived, sitting in darkness, shaking. He never asked her to stay, but he never asked her to leave either. Tonight was different. Hope woke to silence. No screams, no sounds of breaking glass, just nothing. Her instincts screamed warning. She threw on a robe and ran to Can's room. The door was open, never a good sign. Inside, Can sat on the floor in the dark, back against the bed, arms wrapped around his knees. Can? No response. Hope turned on the dimmest light. Can didn't move. His eyes were open behind the sunglasses, but he was somewhere else entirely. Can you hear me? Nothing. Hope's medical training kicked in. Dissociative episode. Trauma response. She knelt slowly in front of him. Can, I'm here. You're safe. You're in your room in Seattle. It's 2024. She kept her voice calm, steady. I'm going to touch your hand now. Just your hand. She placed her fingers on his wrist. His pulse was racing, skin cold. Can, follow my breathing. In for 4 counts. Hold for 4, out for 4. She demonstrated, exaggerating her breaths. Slowly, microscopically, Can's breathing shifted, matching hers. That's it. You're doing great. Stay with me. After what felt like hours but was probably minutes, Can's voice cracked. Hope, I'm here. I can't. He swallowed hard. I can't move. I'm back in the car. I can smell the smoke. Hear my mother screaming. I can't get out. Hope's heart shattered. You're not in the car, Can. You're here with me. Feel the carpet under you. That's real. My hand on yours. That's real. It feels so real. The fire, the metal cutting into my legs, the darkness coming. His voice broke completely. I couldn't save them. I was 6 and useless and I couldn't do anything but scream. You were a child. It wasn't your fault. Everyone says that, no one means it. Can's hands clenched into fists. My grandfather trained me to be strong because weakness killed my parents. Every lesson, every brutal test, every time he pushed me past breaking, it was all because I survived when they didn't. Hope made a decision. She stood, moved behind Can, and sat down, wrapping her arms around him from behind. Can stiffened. Hope, shut up. I'm your wife. Let me hold you. For a moment, she thought he'd pull away. Then, slowly, Can leaned back into her embrace. His body shook as 24 years of locked-away pain finally found a crack in his armor. He didn't cry. Can Yilmaz didn't know how to cry anymore, but his breathing was ragged, his hands gripped hers like a lifeline, and Hope felt the moment his walls crumbled. I'm so tired, he whispered. Tired of being strong, tired of the darkness, tired of pretending I chose this when really I'm just too afraid to see what I've become. Then let me be strong for you, just for tonight. Hope rested her chin on his shoulder. You don't have to be the blind Don right now. You can just be Can. They sat like that for an hour. Hope held him while he breathed, while he remembered, while he slowly came back to himself. Finally, Can spoke. The therapist you made me see, Dr. Richardson, what about her? She says I have complex PTSD, that my coping mechanisms are actually avoidance behaviors, that refusing the surgery isn't about control, it's about fear. He laughed bitterly. 24 years of telling myself I chose darkness. Turns out I'm just a coward. You're not a coward. You're traumatized. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. Hope squeezed him gently. A coward runs from fear. You've been living in it, managing an empire, protecting your family, all while carrying wounds that would break most people. That's not cowardice, Can. That's survival. Can turned in her arms, those unfocused eyes finding her with eerie precision. Why are you so good to me? Because someone should be. Because you deserve kindness. Hope touched his face gently. And because somewhere in the last 3 weeks this stopped being a contract for me. Can's breath caught. Hope, I know, it's complicated. We have a timeline, an agreement, an exit strategy. She smiled sadly. But my heart didn't get the memo. It decided to fall for the man who reads in Braille at 2 a.m., who remembers exactly how I take my coffee, who touches my hand under the table during difficult dinners to remind me I'm not alone. You shouldn't fall for me. I'm dangerous, damaged. So, I'm stubborn. We'll figure it out. Hope stood, pulling him up with her. Come on, you're sleeping in my room tonight. Hope, I can't. Not like that. But you're not staying alone after an episode this bad. She guided him toward the door. We'll actually sleep. Revolutionary concept, I know. Can followed, too exhausted to argue. In Hope's room, she led him to the bed, helped him remove his shoes. Which side do you want? I don't care. Just stay close. They lay down and Hope pulled the covers over them both. Can turned toward her, hesitant. Can I? Yes. Can wrapped his arm around her waist, pulling her against his chest, his nose buried in her hair. You smell like home, he murmured, already half asleep. I didn't know home had a smell until you. Hope's eyes burned. Sleep, Can. I've got you. Don't let go. Never. Hope woke to sunlight and the feeling of being watched. Can was awake, propped on one elbow, his hand hovering near her face like he was memorizing her through touch without actually touching. Morning, Hope said softly. Can's hand dropped. I apologize for last night. That was unprofessional. Can, you're my nurse, my contracted wife. I had no right to burden you with my breakdown. His voice was carefully controlled. Back to the dawn. Walls rebuilt overnight. Hope sat up. Stop it. Stop what? Pretending last night didn't happen. Pretending you don't need people. She grabbed his hand. I held you while you fell apart, and guess what? I'm still here. You didn't scare me off. You should be scared. You saw me weak. I saw you human. There's a difference. Hope squeezed his hand. Can, I meant what I said last night. This isn't just a contract for me anymore. Can pulled his hand away. It has to be. Hope, in 2 years, you get your freedom, your future, everything you deserve. What if I don't want freedom from you? Then you're not thinking clearly. Can stood, already retreating. Last night was a mistake. It won't happen again. Can, I have meetings. Mohammed will bring your breakfast. He walked toward the door with that practiced precision. Thank you for your assistance last night. It was appreciated. The door closed behind him. Hope wanted to scream. The rest of the day, Can avoided her. He ate lunch in his office. Skipped dinner entirely. By midnight, Hope was furious. She marched to his office, didn't bother knocking. Can sat behind his massive desk, fingers reading Braille documents with practiced speed. He didn't look up. I'm working. And I'm your wife. We need to talk. There's nothing to discuss. Really? Because you had a major PTSD episode, let me hold you. Admitted you're afraid of the surgery, and then spent all day pretending it never happened. Seems like a lot to discuss. Can's jaw clenched. Hope, leave it alone. No, you don't get to use me as your emotional support and then shut me out. She moved closer. I'm not one of your employees, Can. I'm your partner. Act like it. You're my contracted wife. There's a difference. Is there? Because last night when you held me, it felt pretty real. When you said I smell like home, that wasn't contractual. When you... Stop. Can stood abruptly. You want the truth? Fine. Last night scared the hell out of me. Not the episode. I've had those for years. But you. The way you held me. The way I felt safe for the first time since I was 6 years old. His voice cracked. I can't afford to feel safe, Hope. Safe men in my position end up dead. So you're going to push me away? Pretend this is still just business? Yes. Because in 18 months, you deserve to walk away without guilt. Without feeling like you're abandoning a broken man who can't function without you. Hope's anger melted into understanding. Can, I'm not going to abandon you. You don't know that. Everyone leaves eventually. I'm still here. After the nightmares, the violence, the danger, I'm still here. She reached for him. Maybe have a little faith in me. Can caught her hand, pulled her close. I'm trying, Hope, but I've never been good at faith. Then let me have enough for both of us. Hope stood on her toes, pressing her forehead to his. I'm falling for you, Can Yilmaz. Fight it all you want, it's already happened. Can's thumb brushed her cheek. This is a terrible idea. Probably. We have an exit plan, a timeline. Plans change. Hope. She kissed him, soft and certain and without hesitation. Can froze for half a second. Then he kissed her back, his hands cradling her face like she was precious, breakable, essential. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Ken rested his forehead against hers. You're going to ruin me. Good. You needed ruining. Ken laughed, surprised and real. What am I going to do with you? Love me. Eventually. If you can. Hope? I think I already do. That's the problem. Hope smiled against his lips. Then let's make it our solution instead. 6 months into their marriage, everything changed on a Tuesday. Hope was in the medical wing, treating a guard's knife wound, when Muhammad burst through the door. It's Can, ambush at the port. He's been shot. Hope's world stopped. Then training kicked in. Where? Left shoulder. Through and through. But Hope, Muhammad grabbed her arm. He's asking for you. Only you. They ran to the SUV. The drive to the private clinic took 12 minutes that felt like 12 hours. Can lay on a surgical table, blood soaking through makeshift bandages. Dr. Richardson worked quickly, but when Hope entered, Can's head turned. Hope. I'm here. She took his hand, assessing the damage. Clean shot. Missed the artery. Lucky. You're going to be fine. The men who did this are being handled. Focus on breathing. Hope looked at Dr. Richardson. What do you need? I need to operate. Remove fragments, repair tissue. He needs to be under anesthesia. Can's grip tightened on Hope's hand. No, I stay conscious. Ken, you'll be in agony. I've been in agony for 24 years. I can handle a bullet wound. His voice was steel despite the pain. I need to stay aware. In control. Hope understood. Anesthesia meant darkness he didn't choose. Loss of control he couldn't afford. Then I'll talk you through it. Every second. She moved closer. Dr. Richardson, do what you need to. I'll keep him grounded. The surgery was brutal. Can's hand crushed Hope's. Sweat poured down his face, but he didn't scream. Didn't break. Hope talked constantly. About their morning routine. About the coffee he loved. About the book she'd been reading to him at night. Almost done, Dr. Richardson said. Final stitches. Can's breathing was ragged. Hope. Right here. If something happens to me, nothing is happening to you. Listen. His hand found her face. If something happens, you walk away. Take the money. Live your life. Don't look back. Ken, promise me. Hope's eyes burned. I promise to consider it. That's the best you'll get. Can laughed weakly. Stubborn woman. You married me. Best decision I ever made. Dr. Richardson finished. You're done. Rest, fluids, antibiotics. You'll be sore for weeks. Add it to the list. Can tried to sit up, winced. Stop being an idiot. Hope pushed him back down. You're staying here overnight for observation. I need to. Mohammed is handling it. Your men are securing the ports. The family knows you're alive. She softened her voice. Please, Can. Let me take care of you. Can's resistance crumbled. Fine, but you stay with me. Where else would I go? That night, while Can slept fitfully in the clinic bed, Hope sat beside him, holding his hand. Mohammed entered quietly. The men responsible are dead. The family who ordered it has been addressed. Good. Hope didn't feel guilty about that. Hope, there's something you should know. Mohammed sat down. The grandfather, he's asking for Can. Says it's time. Hope's heart sank. How long? Days. Maybe a week. Mohammed looked at Can. He'll want to see him strong. Not like this. Then we don't tell him yet. Let Can heal enough to say goodbye properly. You're protecting him. I'm his wife. That's my job. Mohammed smiled sadly. He's lucky to have you, even if he's too stubborn to say it. 3 days later, Can was well enough to leave. They went directly to the grandfather's room. The old man looked smaller than Hope remembered, fragile, but his eyes were still sharp. Tarunam, come here. Can moved to the bedside with Hope's guidance. The grandfather's hand found Can's face, feeling the exhaustion, the pain. You were shot. I'm fine, Didi. Liar, but a brave liar. He turned toward Hope. And you, Kuzum. You kept him alive. He kept himself alive, I just helped. No, before you he was already dead, just too stubborn to lie down. The grandfather coughed, the sound wet and terrible. Can, I'm dying. We both know it. Didi, hush. Listen to an old man. He squeezed Can's hand. When your father died, I raised you hard. Cruel, even. I thought strength meant feeling nothing, being untouchable. His voice cracked. I was wrong. Real strength is letting someone in despite the risk, like you did with Hope. Can's throat worked. You taught me to survive. I taught you to exist. Hope taught you to live. Learn the difference. He looked at Hope. Take care of my boy. He pretends to be made of stone, but inside he's still that 6-year-old who lost everything. I will. I promise. The grandfather nodded, satisfied. Can, one more thing. The surgery, the one to restore your sight. Can stiffened. Didi, I'm not telling you to do it. I'm telling you that whatever you choose, you have my blessing. Stay in darkness if that's your strength. Seek the light if that's your courage. He pulled Can closer. But don't let fear make the choice for you. Let love decide. I don't understand. You will. The grandfather's eyes closed. Now leave. Let an old man sleep. Outside the room, Can leaned against the wall, shaking. Hope held him. He's right, you know. About the surgery. Hope. I'm not pushing, but Can, you've been living in chosen darkness for 24 years because you're afraid of what you'll see. Afraid you'll see a monster. She cupped his face. But what if you see someone worth saving instead? Can was quiet for a long time. What if the surgery fails? What if I lose the little adaptation I have? What if it works? What if you see the world again? See colors, faces, light? Hope's voice softened. See me? Can's breath hitched. I already see you, Hope. In every way that matters. I know, but maybe it's time to see yourself too. 2 months later, Hope stood in a hospital corridor, pacing. Can had made the decision 3 weeks after his grandfather's death, after the funeral, after the mourning, after finally letting himself grieve everything he'd locked away. He'd chosen the surgery, 50% chance of success, 50% chance of permanent damage to his remaining optic function. He'd looked at Hope and said, worth the risk. For you. For us. Now Dr. Richardson emerged from surgery, her expression unreadable. He's stable. The procedure went as well as we could hope, but we won't know if it worked until we remove the bandages in 3 days. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of Can recovering in darkness, wondering if he'd made the right choice. Hope barely left his side. On the 3rd day, Dr. Richardson and Hope stood in Can's room. He sat on the bed, tension radiating from every line of his body. Ready? Dr. Richardson asked. No, but do it anyway. She carefully removed the bandages, layer after layer. Finally, the last bandage came off. Can's eyes were closed. Open them slowly. The light will be overwhelming at first. Can's hands clenched the sheets. Then slowly, he opened his eyes and gasped. I see. Light. Shapes. His voice cracked. Colors. Oh God. Colors. Dr. Richardson moved her hand. Follow my finger. Can's eyes tracked the movement. Tears streamed down his face. It worked. It actually worked. Hope couldn't breathe. Can turned toward her voice. For the first time in 24 years, he truly looked at her. His eyes, those beautiful brown eyes, focused on her face with perfect clarity. Hope. His voice broke on her name. You're beautiful. I knew you were. But He reached for her, hands shaking. Come here. Please. Hope moved to him, tears flowing freely. Can's hands cradled her face, his eyes drinking in every detail. Your eyes are green like forests. Your hair catches the light. You have a freckle right here. He touched her cheek. And when you smile, your whole face lights up. Can, I spent 6 months falling in love with you in darkness. Now I get to fall in love with you in light. He kissed her, deep and certain. Best decision I ever made. Both times. Hope laughed through tears. Both times. Marrying you. And choosing to see you. Can pulled her closer. Hope Yilmaz, I can finally see the woman who saved me. And she's even more incredible than I imagined. Epilogue. 2 years later, Hope stood in the Yilmaz medical wing, now a fully functional clinic serving the family and community. Ken entered, moving with the confidence of a man who'd reclaimed his sight and his life. He wore a gray suit, no sunglasses, his eyes clear and focused. Mrs. Yilmaz, are you ready? For what? Our contract expired today. 2 years exactly. He pulled out a document. According to our agreement, you're now free to leave, with a very generous settlement, and my eternal gratitude. Hope's heart stopped. Ken, he tore the contract in half. You could stay, not because of a contract, not because of money or obligation, but because you choose me, and I choose you, every single day. He pulled out a new ring, simple platinum band inscribed with Turkish. Seni sonsuza kadar seçiyorum. I choose you forever. Ken took her hand. Hope Carter Yilmaz, will you marry me again? This time with no contracts, no exit strategies, just love. Hope didn't hesitate. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Can slipped the ring on her finger beside the first one. 2 rings. Contract marriage and real marriage. Both equally important to our story. Both brought me to you, and both keep you with me. Can kissed her softly. I love you, Hope. In darkness and in light. Forever. I love you too, Can. My blind dawn who learned to see. My monster who became a man. My husband who became my home. They stood together in the clinic that saved lives. In the empire built on blood but sustained by love. In the life they'd chosen together against all odds. Ken Yilmaz had spent 24 years in chosen darkness. Hope Carter had walked into that darkness without fear. And together, they'd found the light.